There we go. I it's funny, Jason. Last time we started the recording right when you were giving an intro too. So that's how this one will start as well. But yeah, I actually have been living with Jason when I kind of like bounce around. And Jason, I won't talk about what he does for work. I'll talk about what he does with his free time. He's an ultra marathon runner and he's trained for 100-mile run. When's your run coming up, Jason?
It's like a little less than 2 months.
Wow.
Woo!
How's that
We should-
training been coming up?
Good. It's been good. It's been good. I'll have to get out more, but no injuries, so that's a good thing.
Oh, that's awesome.
No injuries. That's what it's all about. And Marquise, I've been playing basketball with Marquise since I started playing basketball. And I think I learned playing ball with you, Marquise, one-on-one in those courts in our neighborhood. That was definitely it.
No shade. Yeah. I mean, down by Marty and Jason's house, we'd like go raid their fridge for Gatorade and water after. So
Yeah.
Jason, good to see you.
My man
Marty-
Marquise, did you watch the finals yesterday?
You know I did, man.
Oh, Golden State. Can't stop them.
Yeah. That's what I was rooting for.
Oh, yeah, same.
Dude, I kind of was too. Marquise, I've become a Bucks fan. I'm no longer a Wizards fan. Living in Wisconsin for 6 years.
Oh, I
And,
mean,
cool.
I tell everyone, because everyone always asks like what my teams are. I'm like, I ride with all my hometown teams, no matter what, through thick and thin, and it's been a lot of thin. It's been real thin,
It's been real.
especially with our football team.
Oh man,
You want to talk about shaken faith? I'm shooketh to the core. So, but yeah, nah, man. I mean, I get down with Giannis too. I would have loved to see a Giannis Curry final, but I think I'm getting used to just being a fan of whatever sport it is, since my teams we're never in the mix. So I'm just there just to enjoy the athlete.
Yeah, right. A fan of the sport. I love it. Well, Marty's hopping on here, and Marty was on the first call too. What I'd like to do, guys, is really, we got time to kind of go through and do a little intro like that because it's a pretty small group, but I'll give a little bit of an intro of how we started the very, very first call. And the point of this group is every single person on here, whether I talk to you daily, no one's really daily, but weekly, monthly, annually, whatever, it seems like, or kind of just met you, those people that when you have conversations with, you jump right into the deep end, and you can tell that, everyone out there is yearning community and relationships that go a little bit below the surface level. I think we have enough of those conversations. Hey, how you doing? Oh, like what, whatever. What'd you eat for dinner last night? Like, how's the weather? Like, I'm done with those. Everyone here has kind of like a growth mindset, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're trying to do something, awesome in your personal life, running far. Marquise, doing something in the educational system, which is awesome. And there's kind of like a spiritual aspect to it. And I very clearly do not mean religion at all. I mean spirit, like who we are, right? And like what, kind of drives us. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how we closed last call. We closed last call with someone, Mike Gazzo, kind of going over a really cool experience that he shared with us about making space for himself in the world. And I since no one was really on that call except Jason and Marty's blank screen, I think you must be struggling getting on this one. That I want to kind of like share with what I left last call with. And I left last call with realizing that if you prioritize things and make space for them in your life, they happen, right? And I've been inspired recently by actually two people that are on this call. One is Eden. Eden, when I was hearing about how much you've done and at a young age, I was really I was thinking in the back of my mind the whole time that, like, it's not that you're extremely smart or you have more time or were given anything more than anyone else. It's that, you know, you probably do things, you use your time wisely, right? So this last month, I started every single day with a 1 hour call with a project manager I hired, and we implemented a project management system, which if you guys want to talk about a little pain that I went through for the last 30 days, everything I've done for work down to the 5 minute set, down to like 5 minute blocks, I wrote down on an Excel sheet for a month. And every single day we decided whether they are things I treasure and continue to do, trash them, just completely stop, transfer them to somebody else, or trim them down. And I found out that less than 20% of what I'm doing is something I can treasure. And that made me feel really unimportant. And it was really humbling. But it also gave me power to realize, like, wow, I have an opportunity to maybe run my business in 20-40% of the time that I am now, right? So that was the first thing I tried to make, you know, time for. And the second one was running. And I want to speak briefly on this. And then, you know, I kind of want to open up to others, but, you know, running was one of those things that I got inspired by, you know, Jason from, and I always used to be like I'd run just enough to like brag about it, basically, which is not something I'm proud of either, but that's the truth, right? It's like, oh yeah, like I can kind of run, but I never really, you know, like took it seriously. And I think I just snuck by a couple of runs without getting injured. But Jason, as he was saying in the beginning, talks about like, it's not about running these distances, it's doing it and not getting injured, which means you've successfully conditioned your body for it. And I've always like said, like, I don't run because like I also need to lift and like it takes so long and all those things. So I just started every single day with my runs. And I think by, you know, I start with my runs and I start with that hour call with my project manager. So I looked at my 2 biggest goals for the month and I just started them in the beginning of the day. And it's crazy. Magically, everything else still gets done because I think we're all here, you know, doers. And, you know, Brendan's editing videos, right? He's not going to go to sleep if a client that's paid him to edit videos doesn't have videos edited, right? So he will get that done, and just your day gets, you know, trimmed down. So Marty, you missed a little bit of the intro. Jason and you are the only people here from the last call. And I was actually going to put you guys on the spot because you guys are here from the last call, but we talked about things that we wanted to prioritize for ourselves last time. And I shared a little bit about my experience, but I was wondering if either one of you, maybe I'll start with Jason because he's been on a little longer. Just want to briefly talk about what you were trying to do and any challenges that maybe came with it, any successes you want to share with people.
So from the last call at the end, we all kind of sent in our group chat what we wanted to do. And mine was to journal every day. Which I did not hit, but I was hitting it more frequently than I was previously. I didn't start journaling until maybe a couple months ago, but it has allowed me the opportunity to kind of have more self-reflection. As Sean was getting at, I live with him sometimes, but sometimes I don't. So a good example is like the next 3.5 months, I'm living by myself, which is not abnormal. So it does a lot of time for introspection, but being able to actually get it down onto like be a sheet of paper, Google Doc, or whatever it is super helpful. And I'll just share one kind of nugget. I've recognized, or I've been able to realize that throughout my whole life, or teens into my early adulthood, I've placed a lot of value on like what I would just say, like maybe the weekends, right? In the sense of like, you have this time to do these extra things. Oh, I have to go to every single, I have to make the most out of every single Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or I'm missing out on an opportunity or event. And specifically, I'm living in Colorado right now, up in the mountains, and my mom is coming to visit for like 11 days, which is a super long time. And it's a lot for me, in the middle of training with having this race a few months out. and wanted to get out and explore this area because, you know, I'm only here for really 3 weekends and she's going to be here for 2 of them, to recognize, look, you're not going to be able to see as much here and explore as much, but you're going to be able to, you know, have your time with her and cherish that, you know, just because you're missing out on the opportunity to maybe go to Rocky Mountain National Park and back there, or go and, you know, summit some 14ers on the weekend. It's not a huge miss in the grand scheme of things. It's, you know, 2 weekends out of 52 in a year out of however many in a lifetime. So, you know, understanding, you know, how you value your time, and really not every single moment, you know, you want to be present, but not every single moment needs to be directed in one area. So that's kind of one thing that I came up with my journaling.
Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome, Jason. And I like that you started on a positive. You're like, hey, I tried to journal every day. I didn't, but I journaled more, right? And that's what it comes down to. I certainly have not run every single day. That's for sure. I tried to, and you know, it's kind of like the shoot for the stars, you know, whatever that saying is. What's that saying? Shoot for the something.
Shoot for the stars and land on the moon or something like that.
I think the other way around. Shoot for the moon, land amongst the stars. I don't know. Anyways, you're trying to you know, it's good to set your expectations, you know, Jason, and then that leads to the same thing for like your weekends, right? Like I do like the same thing. Like I just realized every single day I'm trying to do 24 hours of shit with no misses, right? And I think about like, cool, you can sleep 8 hours, wake up, run for 2 hours. So that's 10. You go work for 8 hours, and I plan out 24 hours. And I'm setting myself up that the best case scenario is I meet expectations. Most of the time, I come below, and there's no chance of me exceeding, right? And that's just like, I've always heard that happiness equals expectations, or reality minus your expectations, right? So I think that's really wise, Jason. So it sounds like the journaling might be working a little, and I appreciate you sharing that.
We'll see.
We'll see. Marty, what were you looking to make space for?
So I had a really original idea. My idea was I wanted to journal every day. For real. I think like I was like 5.
Are you guys related?
I think, dude, looking at I was trying to look back, and I think like half of the chat said they wanted to do that. So I guess it's something people find important. But I also, being related, I had a pretty similar experience to Jason where I definitely didn't hit every day. And honestly, I couldn't find exactly what I said, but I think what I was looking for was just to kind of make it more of a habit or routine to like make space in the morning to just like write my thoughts down. And I think I successfully can say I did that. And I don't know if I had any like breakthrough kind of thought that has I'm blanking right now. So nothing really stuck with me, but I can tell you it did feel good just writing something down every day. And yeah, it's cathartic in a way. And I kind of made it, I don't know if this is good or bad, but I made it kind of easy on myself where some days I would literally just write like a rap lyric. Like I would write like anything, you know, but just doing something kind of got me in the habit. And like,
Dude.
you know, I feel like habits are the best when they're kind of, they're the most productive when they're just feel good and they're instinctual. And it's kind of gotten almost like that already within a month of just journaling. So it's a success in that way, but I don't know. Thinking about what Jason said, maybe I got to retool it to make some real intuitive, thought-provoking, you know, try to structure it more.
Dude, I think that's probably a lot of pressure on yourself. I think you're right that the habit's awesome. Talking about rap lyrics, Marquise, I sent you like 5 Jay-Z songs in the last 2 months. I got no comments back.
What? No, you sent me the cover of Blueprint 3.
Blueprint
You didn't send the
3.
lyrics though. You didn't send lyrics. I did actually
Um,
take a spin through that album though. Yeah.
Dude,
So
yeah, some old Jay-Z is good. But Marty, I think you're right on both fronts, right? That it's the habit, right? And then, you know, I think Jerry Seinfeld used to write a joke a day, and he said some were shitty, right? He said most were shitty. But writing and failing and why'd you fail? Just thinking about it's awesome. So I think it's all. When did you write? Beginning of the day, end of the day?
Yeah, I just worked it into the morning routine. I feel like that's the easiest.
When did you write, Jason?
Typically, end of the day, a lot of Sean, I work out after work, so a lot of it comes from working out or running in the woods.
Yeah. Well, it's actually pretty interesting. I'd like to see what you guys think. After workouts, we've had time to clear our head. If I'm gonna write something, it's gonna be, I don't want to say it's gonna be thought provoking. It's coming from a time when I've had more time to think, right? So maybe Jason's is almost like spewing what's been in his head for the 3-hour trail run. And yours is could be more like creating, Marty, Well, guys, Marquise, Danny, Eden, Brendan, you guys weren't, I know you weren't going through that last week, but I'd love to hear, maybe I'll just pick someone, Marquise. I'd love to hear something that you want to try to, make space for in the next month. And really let's talk about like what struggles might come up and how we can get past those, right?
Yes, I mean, I wasn't able to join the call last week, but I was able to kind of put in what it is that I wanted to make time for over the next 30 days till today.
Yeah.
And for me, that was making more time for reading, not just newspapers or the news, but just reading, just novels or any kind of books that have been on my to-do list for a long time. And then trying to establish a routine. Definitely more successful finding time for reading than establishing any kind of routine. But hopefully with the end of my summer course, going into next week with a little bit more time, less emails to answer, I can kind of start a pattern that is repeatable for myself. And then I got paired up with Christian, who's in Chicago, who kind of had like similar interests. So we were able to touch base, I would say at least 2 times, maybe even 3 times before today's
Awesome.
call. And, similar to Jason and Marty, like, was I successful in making space for reading every day? Absolutely not. Most of the week, probably not, but more than I had before, yes, right? So kind of embracing that incremental progress. And it certainly helps for me that my semester was over at the end of May. And, once I finished grading, I was like, all right, now I have like real extra time that I'm not spending holding office hours or answering emails or grading or doing the other admin stuff that comes with teaching. Let's do something with that time. And so far that's been getting through as much of this book as I can, and maybe not being able to run through, like a whole section of the New York Times, but I'll be studying for the LSAT this summer. So just kind of running through some opinion pieces. And it's helped, having that call with Christian to just kind of hold myself a little bit accountable when Christian's like, hey, you read anything interesting this week? And I'm like, nope, I haven't read it all. So let me get back to that. So yeah, it's been busy since the last call, but like I said, I mean, just setting the goal and just even making a little bit of progress to it is, further than where I was before. So in my next 30 days, it'll be more of the same, Sean, right?
Yeah.
More reading, right? More getting through more of that book, getting through more articles, and then kind of layering more stuff on that.
Well, that means you chose the right goal if you just want to keep at it, right? It's not about trying new shit, but what's pretty cool is now we're 4 people and we've all set goals and talked about a little bit how we've gotten better but failed at doing it to perfection. So I think it's like a good, and I would say we're all fairly happy, successful people, right? So it's a good thing to think about, right? Like maybe level setting expectations, I think is a huge theme here. But Marquise, something that an idea I'll give you that maybe you can take as something that you might want to try to implement is, so you got this time right now, right? Where you're going to have more free time. What habits can you implement now that are going to, whether you have a month or 2 months, whatever, that are going to be so strong at the end that when you ramp up, they don't fade away? That's the goal. Because, like I like to challenge you because I know that you can handle it. Like you can get your reading in and everything else, right? I know you can, right? But habits are hard. Like if you don't, I know for a fact I have a habit, and I know it sounds silly, but after I eat dinner, I like am shut down for the day, right? And sometimes like I put stuff on my plate after dinner, like I'm gonna read and whatever, and it just doesn't happen. So I need to change that habit, right? So this might be a good chance for you. Danny, man, hearing what we kind of been talking about, does anything come to mind of something that you want to like make space for?
You know what? It honestly does. I've been the past 2 months leading up to VCon, I've been thinking about personal branding, right? And trying to fit that in within my schedule. It is what I'm trying to find the perfect kind of time for documenting over creating. That has been a little struggle for me just because my day is like havoc, right? I got family and then the work, so I got to prioritize that first, and then I got to go visit my kid, and then by then put the baby to sleep. It's 10 o'clock, so there's a lot of time management within those spaces. So you guys said a lot of things about journaling, writing down thoughts, noting down experiences, what you're thinking of that day is really intriguing, something I might look into. But definitely that this process that of personal branding right now has definitely got me a little tweaked up.
Yeah. Well, personal branding's writing, right? Absolutely.
Right.
Um, so I'll tell you, Danny, you remember Matt
Yeah,
from
yeah,
VCon?
Matt.
Dude, you should call him. He's in this group. He's actually on a flight right now. I know he's not able to make it. So I've always felt like, I think everyone kind of feels like that. Like, sometimes like maybe you have some thoughts that you might want to share with others that people might want to hear or whatever. And I just thought like, I'm not a social media guy. I'm not on it or anything, but I I kind of felt like if I like put content about out around this, like it would do well. And I think it's really came down for me to like a confidence thing, like kind of like being scared to put that content out, and a change a habit. Um, and I don't know, I think Matt has a good grip around that. So if you want, I can connect you guys after. I think he'd love to chat with you about that.
No, yeah, definitely. I got his contact. I'll probably end up shooting him a couple texts out.
Yeah, for sure.
But Brendan, I love what you say you chop up videos, right? Editing videos, whatnot. How has that been for you?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I just want to give a quick shout out to Sean. Thank you for bringing me a part of this. Just to reintroduce myself, my name is Brendan Brown. I go by Brendan St. Brown. And even though we're all plugged in virtually, I just feel the energy through the ether. So I'm really excited for this call. And what I do is I have a video editing agency where we take people's podcasts and raw and long form content, and we repurpose it for short form content. So we turn that into TikToks, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts.
And you got your own brand.
Yes, and then so also I have a brand on TikTok where, as kind of Sean said before, I just share my experiences through life, what I've learned, just kind of daily inspiration, and I share the lessons that I've learned with my TikTok following.
Dude, I think for anyone that wants to get into personal branding, I think yours is like outstanding, dude. It's very simple. Like you could tell, like you've got the recording down simple, and like you're not struggling too much in like the recording process of it, if you will. And it's probably really efficient from a time standpoint. I mean, I know that's what you do, so.
Absolutely, I appreciate that, and I'm gonna share with you guys. So what I do, it's just I record off my cell phone. Now, when it comes to content, there's two theories to content. There is homemade content and Hollywood content. Now, what I do is homemade content where I just shoot off my phone, but with my agency, we do professional style content. Professional style or Hollywood content, it it portrays authority, credibility, and expertise. When it comes to homemade content, it's about relatability, authenticity, and trust. So the message that I want to get out with my following is I want it based on trust and authenticity and relatability, especially. Now, Gary Vee's his content strategy jab, jab, right hook. I've just been throwing out jabs. I've been throwing out jabs. I haven't had a right hook yet. I haven't had an ask. I haven't monetized it yet. So that's one thing. That's what's next for me. But I just kind of went in with like a blank canvas where I just wanted to brand my personality online. And now I have some people who resonate with me. And eventually in the next 30 to 60 days, I really kind of want to create a monetization structure from my social media.
What are you thinking?
Sweet.
What am I thinking? That's where I kind of really want to plug in. So just to share with you guys also where I'm at in the journey, I'm actually moving down to Miami next week. Right now I'm at my parents' house. And as I say, there's never a perfect time to jump off the deep end. But I got a lot of indicators that this is the time to just go all in. I see Eden's in the call. I was just with them in Miami last week, and I know we're going to be hanging out down in Miami in a few weeks. So when I get down to Miami, I just kind of want to I really have no plan. For the last 2 or 3 years, I was so strategic every single day. I was very strategic, and it got me to where I'm at right now. So we're talking about journaling. I journal every single day. Since I was 19, I would journal down affirmations every day. And at 24, I hit the 3 big goals that I wanted to do. I wanted to be self-employed, have my own business. I wanted to inspire a following of tens of thousands of people. I've done that. And I didn't want to be tied down to one location. So now I've done those 3 big things. And one of the first things Sean spoke about in this call is we're all connected on a spiritual level. So for me, as I get down to Florida and Miami, I just kind of want to transition into a flow state. And from kind of militaristically, I want life to happen to me and then just create a plan and adjust to that. So I'm really kind of going in with no plan as I'm saying before, but more into a flow state. So that's my big goal in the next 30 days is to really kind of just get into a flow state and then figure out my next big move, my next big plan.
Dude, that's awesome. I think made it hard for anyone to follow up after that one. Dude, talk to me about that flow state. It's really abstract, right? Talk to us about that. First of all, congrats on writing down your goals and achieving them. That's fucking big time. If you don't have a whole 20 video series of content around that, create it. But what do you mean? Maybe give me an example. Give us an example of what that would look like of living in a flow state. Because I mean, whether you're familiar with flow states or not, or you've thought about that as a goal or not, I'm pretty sure that everyone would love to get there, right?
So flow state, I was kind of in a flow state earlier today, and I'm sure being present means something to all of us. And in a flow state is, you're not really worrying about the future and you're not really worrying about the past, to me at least. And I went to the beach earlier with my brother and I left my phone in the car. Normally, everywhere we go, we always kind of have our phone on us. And I left my phone in the car and I really was just enjoying the air. I was enjoying the scenery. And when it comes to a flow state, I just want to just be immersed in the moment. I'm not worrying about what I'm going to do later that day. I'm not worried about what happened yesterday. I'm not worried about next week, 3 weeks, 1 year down the road. I'm really just kind of focused on the present moment. They say anxiety is when you're rehearsing the future, depression is when you're rehearsing the past. So I really just want to be immersed in what's in front of me. And in the military, they say, be where your feet's at. So I want to be where my feet are at.
I love that, man. I don't know if anyone want to give anyone room to ask or respond to that.
Brendan, you said you were doing this for about 2-3 years, your video agency, editing agency?
I've been creating content for 8 years. I was previously a social media host. And then I went full in on my agency in January. That was fun at my video agent or the social media host for Relax.com. It was lacrosse. It was one of the world's largest lacrosse brands. So I was a vlogger. I went out to all the lacrosse games, made vlogs with the high schoolers, with the pros, and that was fun. And I want to share another thing with you guys where I'm just kind of learning in the journey. So as humans, one of the things that we're really desired by is status and validation and fame. And when I came to start creating content, I'm not gonna lie, like I was like, oh, I want to be famous. I want to be a famous influencer. And then when I was a social media host, I was starting to get recognized. And it didn't make me any happier than I currently was. And so I'm glad that that experience happened to me. But now that's why I'm really kind of just more, I want to get into a flow state. And I'm sure Eden and I, we spoke a little bit about this, and I'm sure he can relate to this. But I just kind of want to just be focused on the present. And in terms of like material possession, like I'm straying away from that. I really just kind of want to be like, as I'm saying before, immersed in the moment and what's in front of me.
Awesome, dude. That's the goal. And you know, I'll tell you, if I had to summarize my goals, I would say that's it, is to enter the flow state. And you know, it feels silly for me to like admit this now, but hearing that, the approach I take, right? I would say I'm kind of more like analytical, and the approach I take is like, cool, like, well, cool. If I want to get to a flow state and not worry, I need to be financially free. So like now, like, let me back into how I become financially free. And then I need to make sure, you know, like whatever, right? Like I'm back into it. And, you know, looking at, you know, people on the call that I know really, really well, I'd say the Hind boys and Marquise, you're probably like that too. Like we're all kind of like, cool, like, you know, like, let's make sure, like, you know, if we want to get there, let's map out a plan to get there. And that, you know, that, from what I've heard, people that feel self-actualized there, it's more like almost like a flipping a switch of letting go. And it's not necessarily flipping a switch, because it often takes practice, whether it's creating, right? Creating anything, meditation, practicing awareness, right? Anything like that. But you said you spoke to Eden about it. Eden, you know, I'd love to kind of hear what spoiler alert, me and Eden spoke earlier today, and he wants to make space for that too. So, but I'd love to kind of hear, you know, what you guys were chopping it up about that.
I mean, we had an incredible conversation about so many things. But to touch on that, like, it's actually something I'm focused on, and we touched about that in our conversation earlier today too. Like focusing on less is more. And something that you just said about, like, all right, I want that, but first I need to be financially free. I've been operating in that way since I opened my first business. Of like, I never worked in something that I was passionate about, except like cooking, but that I learned my lesson from that, because it didn't work out. But I've always done things for the money so that I could do things that I want. And I sacrificed a lot of my youth, like being 23, like I've been running businesses for almost 9 years now. And I have hit continuous, like, especially in the last 4 years or so, I've hit a lot of burnouts of like just complete crashes. And I've been questioning that recently. And the conclusion I've come to is like, and I think, Brandon, this is something we talked about, like for me, I realized my long-term goals are not aligned with my current actions. Like I am acting in a way that is not aligned with my long-term goal, yet I think that these actions will bring me, you know, I expect at some point that these actions will bring me to my long-term destination. And that's something I've been like trying to wrap my head around. And my goal recently has been, and it's not even a goal, but just my thought process, especially in the last month, has been like to do as little as possible, like to push myself as little as possible, which is the opposite of what I've been doing for the last year, where I was like, became an absolute sociopath. It was like running 2 companies, just under 40 employees full time. And then like also bulking and like getting super into fitness. And so I was eating 5-6 times a day. I was up at like 4 a.m. I was in bed by like 9 p.m. Like I was just absolute sociopath, like goals, watching like brainwashing myself with like Bob Proctor and Joe Dispenza. And just like, dude, I went hardcore. I went off the deep end.
Wait, eating 6 times a day sounds like a vacation.
Yeah. Well, you would think, and I love to eat. I love to eat and I love to cook too. But I got to the point where it just became a job. It became like a chore. Like I just
Yeah.
had to like stuff calories. And funny enough, I told you this just before, but like I was sick. Like I was in Israel a few days ago, and I got super sick, and I couldn't eat anything for like 4 or 5 days, and I pretty much lost all of my mass that I'd built up for the last year, just like that, just from like being out, feverish, whatever. So it's funny how those things can disappear, but yeah. So I like, and some of you guys may have experienced this. I grew up like very poor. My parents experienced like extreme poverty, and then I was homeless in my teens for a while. And so I had this driving force, this like constant fire pit under my ass of I have to make money. Like I cannot be at that point again. And so that's been pushing me, and that fear has created that mentality for me of like anything that I want to do. First, I need to be like financially secure and financially stable. And what I discovered at some point in sales, when I started making, I started making a lot of money, and I was still like not sleeping. I was losing sleep over not having money. And so I'm kind of analyzing all of that over the last month and trying to let go, because I with my 2 companies, I lost a lot of money over the last 6 months or so. They've been in losses, and so I'm like not at a good financial point, and normal me would be like grinding right now for the next project. I'm trying to do the opposite, like kind of release that fear that I have that like is that like grips my chest, like really of like not having money and like what the hell am I gonna do, and just relax, get into I guess the flow state as well, in a way of just like trusting, being okay with like what I'm not doing. That's another thing, is like being more forgiving with myself. Like you guys touched on these goals that you had of like journaling every day or running every day. And like, even though you didn't sound like you were beating yourself up for it, but you did mention like, I didn't do that, but I did do more. And I'm doing my best right now to like not compare myself to who I want to be or these goals, these end goals that I have, but rather like who I was yesterday or 2 days ago or a week ago. Like, am I a little bit better? I've improved a little bit. And even if I haven't come as far as I said I would, or I haven't done exactly what I said I would do, like, did I do more than I was doing before? And if so, like, great. And then forgive myself and move on from that. Yeah, sorry, I went off on a bit of a ramble there, but if anyone has anything to add on to that.
Hey, Eden, that's super relatable, eh? The hustle culture, right? As they call it, right? The hustle culture where you just nonstop trying to find that financial freedom, and it doesn't stop no matter how much money comes from it.
Yeah.
And that hunger just doesn't get satisfied.
No,
Yeah.
because you're operating off of a paradigm, and
Right.
and it's like this expectation that external factors will change something within you. And I remember this when I had a catering company, and one of my clients, he would always say this sentence to me in different forms. He said, like, he would kind of like laugh about it. He would say, hey, Eden, like, just don't be an asshole, because if you're an asshole now, you're gonna just be a rich asshole. Like, it's not gonna change you, was his point. And this guy was like multi-millionaire. And that stuck with me. It's like, all right, like I cannot, and that comes back to what I was saying about like my current actions not being aligned with my long-term goals. Is like, I'm doing something that's not aligned with who I want to be, yet in some way I have the expectation that like that will bring me to a place of financial freedom that will allow me to be this way. But I think I'm coming to believe that that's bullshit. And like, if I don't start being aligned with who I want to be, there's nothing else that's going to get me there. Like, if I'm stressed out, I'm not taking care of myself enough, and I'm pushing myself too much, and like I'm operating with like a lot of strife and just like struggle, then I'm just going to be like a millionaire who's struggling and stressed out and whatever. It's going to be the same thing. I'm going to be the same person, just with more money. It's not going to change. Castle.
Dude, that's too real, man. It really at least for me, and I think Danny, it hits home, right? Like, I was thinking about that. So I think again, something we talked about today, Eden, was I started my business, and I'm gonna use a word with a negative connotation, to have a muse to make money. What I mean by that is I read the 4 Hour Workbook by Tim Ferriss, and how can I make the most money in the least amount of time, right? Which is, forget that goal. That might be a mishap of a goal, but forget that. Something that I didn't do was set a goal. I didn't say, okay, I want to make this amount of money and work this many hours. And what I found is 2 things. One is, if I make more money or less, I'm not measuring against anything. I don't have, okay, when I make 50,000 or 500,000 or $10 million in a year, whatever it is, I'm going to then plateau. And really the way that it should have looked, let's pretend, let's take the assumption that the goal of setting a muse to make money in the least amount of time possible, let's take that as a good goal. Forget if it is or not. Let's just take that as a good goal. The way it should have been was, cool, I want to make $200,000 working 20 hours or less per week. Once I hit that goal, I will use my additional time, money, energy, instead of working more to make more, to do something that is more aligned with my priority, right? And instead, it's more like using that extra time, 20 hours, if we're talking 40-hour work weeks, money, anything that, I would invest into the company, energy, right? What we're thinking about all day. I'm using that to worry about my company or try to grow it bigger or whatever. And, that might be something that I take away from what, honestly, it sounds like Danny, Eden, and Brennan, you guys are kind of just chopping up about, but this month, that's something I might try to do, is like set some goals of what I want and need. And like, if I'm achieving them, or even reflect on if I am achieving them, like start to really prioritize that other time. Like, for example, if I'm feeling like, I always try to meditate. I don't think I meditated more than twice in the last month, right? Because I've been busy with work. Just do it in the morning. Just do it. And anything, knowing that your work might drop off a little, in reality, it probably won't. It probably lift. But if it does, that's not a bad thing, because we're not just measuring work money in this scenario, right? Like, there's the spiritual side to it as well.
Yeah, which is often, I think, like a goal that's looked over, the spiritual side. And it causes, I don't know if you guys are like seeing this in your circles, but I'm seeing a lot of burnout in my circle of friends. Like a lot of people just getting burnt out, feeling kind of like down. I think it's a combination of things. I think social media has like a big impact, and not seeing. And that's why, like, I really try to be as honest as possible, like, and full disclosure. Like, I don't hide anything. Anyone that asks me, I'm like, yeah, my company's we're in losses for 6 months. I'm in the lowest financial point I've been in since I was like 16. Like, full disclosure, because like there can be a very dark reality and side to entrepreneurship and pushing yourself and being like, just a better, like, I don't know, operating at a higher level of fitness, of work, of dedication, of responsibilities. Yeah. And so anyway, I don't know if like anyone has anything to add on that, like the burnout, because I'm really seeing it amongst a lot of my friends, a lot of people that like are very successful, and they're just like hitting a burnout. And I think it has a lot to do with the spiritual side not being integrated enough, like more value being placed on what's making money than what's making you happy. And happiness is fleeting, but like what's giving you that long-term satisfaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is anyone here like experiencing high levels of burnout besides probably Eden, or experiencing the exact opposite and feel? So something else is, I also think it's really important. What's up, Rob? Something else I think is really important is, guys, like we were talking about expectations in the beginning of this call. We're doing great in some areas. Like if you're not feeling burnout and you feel like you might have something to share, it doesn't need to be the magic answer. because I know, people, I know Marty, you're not, you don't look at yourself extremely highly all the time. You might not feel like you don't have the magic answer, but if you have something that you do that could help Eden or anyone else, like, dude, let it rip. Cause I kind of, if I ask people something, I like to start and kind of lead by example. I'm definitely not feeling burnt out, Eden, and I have I have my two bookends basically. And the thing to that is, number one, I learned this from Rob on the call. I prioritize my wellness, and that to me is my exercise every single morning. I don't care if my company is on fire, I'm going to exercise without my cell phone. And then the only thing is I end the day with like 30 minutes and no cell phone. And generally try to spend that time with my girlfriend, my mom, whatever. That helps me so much because I start and end my day strong. But at the same time, I do get a little, like, I wouldn't say I'm not burnt out, right? Like I do get kind of overwhelmed sometimes with workload. So I'd love to open that up to everyone.
Yeah, I could definitely, that resonates with me. Right now I'm not feeling too much of a burnout, but I like to say there are 4 aspects to health: your physical health, your mental health, so your relationship with your thoughts, emotional health, are you proactive to the world, are you reactive, and spiritual health, your relationship to the creator and to have a purpose. Now, during COVID in the last few years, I've been sick like once or twice the last 3 years. And I feel like it falls back on my spiritual health to have a purpose, to be connected with the creator. So definitely, like Eden, that resonates with me is if you neglect the spiritual side, and I wrote down, are your current actions aligned with your long-term goal? That one resonated. So for me, Eden, I'm here for you, bro. So whatever you need, bro, I got you, man.
I appreciate it. And when I say burnout too, like I don't mean necessarily like a fatal crash, right? Like an all-out crash, but like because
You're being honest.
Yeah, I'm smiling. No, I'm smiling. I'm not like laying in bed like crying all day. Only in the mornings. But but there is something about like a loss of, I guess, like leaking fuel in a way. Like there's not enough fuel being replenished versus being utilized.
That's I'm sorry to cut you off. That's just, you said, I love the way you said that, and it got me thinking, like, the way I probably answered was probably not as honest as yours. That's kind of what I'm feeling, is a little, I could probably hold this up for 10 more years, 20 more years. I don't think I could hold it for 80 more years. And if you can't, there's an issue.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So sorry, appreciate you giving me that strength right there.
No worries. Absolutely. Yeah, and my just now when I was in his uncle said something to me that really stuck. He said, if you want to make sure to have a happy life, just make sure you're happy today and then tomorrow, and like not. But I think for me, I've been really glorifying, like I had this sentence that I said to myself the last year, and it was kind of my motto, which was, I don't want to, so I'm doing it. Right. So like, I hate waking up early. So I was up at 4 a.m. Like I'm not usually like, I don't like to get physically active the moment I wake up. So I was like waking up and like half one eye, half closed, like on the run already. Or whatever. So, but that, like, I don't know. What do you guys think? Because I know like we have a few athletes in here. Jason, I've heard a lot about you from both Matt and Sean, and your heroics of your athleticism have made it far. So I know that to me, like I learned a lot about pushing myself in business from pushing myself in fitness. But do you guys think there is like a level where it's too much, where you're like pushing yourself too much? You're essentially like going from pushing yourself to punishing yourself at some point in a negative way?
That's a great question. I don't know if I have a direct answer for that right now, but I do have a somewhat of a personal story for burnout, where I took a look at, it's been mentioned a few times. I took a look at, what my personal goals are and then my long-term goals. And this is about, we'll call it a year ago at this point. It was last summer and I liked what I was doing. It was solid pay, good work-life balance. But and I could have continued to do it and move up in my company. That said, it didn't align with, it was making me feel okay. It wasn't good or bad. So I was able to take some time off and take a leave of absence, unpaid for my company. And it's different for everyone. For me, my kind of opportunity to self-reflect and think about what was important was I got to backpack on the Appalachian Trail by myself for a month, which was an awesome experience. And, that gives you a lot of time to just go ahead and think as you're kind of just hiking all day. And I end up coming back to my company and starting in a new area. That said, I think what I'm getting at here is, even though it might be difficult, giving time back to yourself and allowing that time to be time where you're thinking, I think is super helpful to define, what are those goals? What is important to you? And one thing I can't remember, it was either Sean or Marty that said to me is like the most addictive thing in the world is like not any type of drug, but it's getting that paycheck every 2 weeks. And I know it's a little different for you entrepreneurs. For me, it was, again, only 6 weeks without getting it, but having time where I was not making any money and just spending allowed me the time to just kind of think and being, okay, like I'm doing this for myself. What's important? How do I want to proceed after this? So I don't know if I have a great answer as far as like, what's that level with physical or maybe mental exertion and when it, starts to become, you stop hitting that, or you hit the pinnacle and it starts to become a negative.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that, it's different for everyone and it's hard to define, but the self-reflection is the biggest point here, which I think you guys are all doing. It sounds like.
Well, one resource, Brendan, you might be interested because I know you said you like that goals don't equals his actions don't equal his long-term goals. What you even said, I know you kind of resonate with that. That's actually a chapter in a book called Thinking in Systems. I actually don't recommend the book. I recommend that chapter though. And it's in the first sentence was that the goal of a system, and you, Brendan, you, Jason, Danny, Marty, Marquise, Eden, Rob, me, we are systems. Within us, there's systems. There's a nervous system, skeletal system, whatever. But as a whole, we're a system. And the goal of our system is not what we state the goal is. It's the most expected outcome of our actions. And to me, that was just eye-opening because like I would say like, oh yeah, like my goal is to like really practice like quiet mental time. Then why am I filling every single second with stimulation from work and exercise and whatever, right? So it's like that's obviously not my goal. My goal is to figure out how I can manage as much stimulation as possible if I was being truthful with myself. So I hope that kind of
Sean. Hey, Sean, at the
Yes,
start of Atomic Habits, they talk about that a lot too. So I was just listening to that and I thought it was really helpful. I'm sure all of you like me are pretty goal orientated, but it was really helpful to sort of take a step back and think about more of what you want to be and what you identify as and what that looks like. And most importantly, what that feels like and striving to do that. So just like the systems, similar to what you're saying, Sean, of just sitting back, figuring out what your identity is, what you want to feel, and then aligning that system to match that and your actions, what you're doing.
yeah. Dude, I appreciate that, Rob. That's I love how you said about feeling too. This feeling's really important. And guys, I'm just realizing, I know we're all probably running out of time here. I'm looking at the clock. What I'd love to do is kind of take, I like to act, right? Actions lead to results. Unfortunately, having these fun little calls don't do much, and except inspire us. So, kind of similar to last month, let's take the themes that we've been talking about, right? Obviously, some of the themes are managing expectations. Some of the themes are aligning your goals with your actions. And then doing's always a theme. So let's kind of take those three and, come back with new goals. Right. And I think we should do a similar thing as last week where, I will pair everyone up. And I actually kind of was thinking about that during this call. Danny, I don't know if you and Brendan, are you and Brendan connected?
No, not yet, but I'd love to connect, Brendan.
Outstanding.
Very interesting, man. Hey,
Outs-
one thought I'd like to add before we end today, because I gotta get running too.
Yeah.
So through my journey, it was when I started my first business, it wasn't about the money. I did it because I wanted to do it. It looked fun. And then halfway through, I'm not gonna lie, it became about the money because it was just pouring in. And then now, because you guys are talking about burnout, it really gave me an epiphany. I feel it now. The burnout is what's been happening to me because I'm not interested about the business anymore. It doesn't make me happy. When I go to work, it's like I gotta do what I gotta do because I have to do it, or no one's gonna get it done. But now I'm looking for, I don't know if you guys felt this, now you're looking for the next feeling of like that building stage of like that joy and excitement of trying to make something happen. That process, that that process and destination, like Gary says, is actually completely different. When you get there, it doesn't actually feel like anything, right? But when you look back at that process of trying to make it, it's what actually brings joy.
First, congrats on getting there, because that's awesome.
Not all the way there yet, but there's certain. It's not even just the financial point. I was listening to this podcast by Joy Harbinger show or something, and they were saying there's that certain aspects in life that it's not just financial. It's relationship with your parents, family, friends, and I've been in a cocoon. I literally, when I did my thing, I cut most people out. I'm not gonna lie. I was so focused on myself, just trying to prove myself and other people wrong, right? Growing up, I didn't have good grades. So that was a big struggle through my life of just trying to prove it. But now it's just like, I don't know, it's different now. The course of the journey has wavered and it is different now.
Yeah, maybe that's something we talk about, like how to balance things next, because I think balance is key. And Marty, next time, if you don't mind, I'd like you to talk about your view on goals, because I think it's unique here, and I know we've been talking a lot about goals.
We can argue about it. We can have a back and forth.
Yeah, no, I think, no, I really think it's awesome, because I'd say you're furthest, down that thought of the people on this call. Maybe Eden's close to you, and I think it could be really enlightening, for sure. Guys, I sent in a group text here if everyone wants to take a look, people that you can connect with. In that original group, everyone's phone number should be in there. Of course, just text me. Marquise and Rob, you guys, the reason I want, first of all, Brandon and Danny, I connected you guys are going back and forth a lot this call. I feel like you have quite a bit to talk about. Marquise and Rob, I think you guys are going to empathize with each other a ton. I really do, because you guys are both on the highly analytical side, and you can resonate with that and then relate on problems, and figure out how to overcome it. And then Marty, I think you and Eden also are kind of opposites. in some ways again, I think that's a good way to, pair people up. And Jason, you just lost the drawing, so.
Well, boys, I gotta run. Sean, thank you so much for hosting. I am
Thank you.
speaking with everybody. Brendan, I'll definitely holla at you soon. Catch you later. Eden, it was good seeing you, my man.
It was great seeing all of you guys. This was fantastic, and I look forward to the next. I look forward to the next conversation.
Yeah,
I definitely gotta run. Thank you so much, Sean.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, you're
Sean.
welcome.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
everybody.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Sean.
everyone.